Hello, my name is Aaron Cavanagh and I'm the founder and editor-in-chief of Post-Burnout.com. Post-Burnout.com is a culture website dedicated to venerating burnt-out artists the world over. This is our website's podcast where we publish full-length recordings of our interviews, which are sometimes the unedited versions of our site's articles and at other times are exclusives. If you're a returning listener, thank you for coming back, and if this is your first time listening, thank you for checking us out. We hope you enjoy and consider subscribing, giving the episodes a thumbs up if you're on YouTube, or giving it a rating if you're anywhere else. It really helps us out. Thank you. Alright, in this edition of Post-Burnout.com interviews, the Limerick musician Aaron Maloney, who is now going by the mononymous moniker of ARREN, discusses everything there is to know about his upcoming debut album Dark Earth, his latest single It Takes One to Know, his former band Elenay, moving to Dublin, getting into the capital's music scene, being a film director, the mental health of being a musician, and much more. Also, next Friday, August 9th, Aaron will be performing with Huntings, Ragtags, and Fernando Antunes at Sinead in Dublin. Tickets for that show are available in the description of this episode. Sorry, everything's sorted now. Sorry, just my laptop didn't pick up my earpods for some reason, so
Oh, no bother, man. No bother.
dude, it's
Good
really
to,
nice
good
talking
to,
to you.
yeah, thanks for having me on, man.
Absolutely. Thanks for reaching out. I guess I'll just start with the kind of basic question, which is a bit about your background. I mean, um, I was kind of when I was reading up on you. I mean, my understanding is you're from Limerick. You cite influences like Radiohead, Oasis, U2, and Hudson Taylor. I was wondering, like, what kind of got you into music, and how I don't know how have you progressed since?
Well, it's funny actually. I was originally given a guitar by my parents, God, maybe when I was 14 or something like that. And I was like, what? Why the hell did you get this for me? Like, I have no interest in learning how to play this or anything. Um, but then I was thinking, it'd be cool to learn like how to play the James Bond riff, like dun, 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 dun. So I learned that, and I was like, "Cool, this is not bad." Then I learned, "Do you want to know?" Of course, um, yeah, and that was it, man. Like I did nothing else after that. But then I went into transition year, and my best friend started learning guitar, and he was like, Um, he's not the best singer, to be fair. Uh,
I
so he
relate.
was like, Aaron, you sing all the time. And I have been singing all my life. Like, I never really thought of it as something to get into, but I've always been singing all the time. I can't remember. I was probably singing coming out the womb, to be honest. Um, but yeah, he was like, Aaron, I'm learning guitar now. Maybe you could sing a few songs. And I'm like, yeah, go on. So we learned Riptide by Vance Joy. And we practiced that a few times, and we thought we sounded pretty good. Um, I actually have the original video that we took when we were like 15 or 16. Um, Terrible. Oh my God.
Dude, I relate
Useless.
that so much. Like when you hear yourself back, you're like, oh my God, like we're so out of sync. We just sound awful.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And even like me, like so many people say, and not just to me, like I'm sure other vocalists would say the same, like, "Oh, you're born with such good talent. You're such a great singer, such talented." But I sounded like, can I curse on this?
Oh, absolutely. Say what you want.
Okay, sound like absolute shit, man. Like I was singing like Vance Joy. Is he Australian
I think
or is he
so.
English or something like that?
Yeah, I don't know
One of
all
those
about it.
British invaded countries, anyway.
Yes, yes, one of the
Um,
Commonwealths.
yeah,
One of
yeah,
the
yeah.
colonies.
But I was singing in his accent,
Yeah.
you know. So I was like, what? Like I watched it there a couple of months ago. I always kind of watch it every now and then just to remind myself. Um,
Just for the sake of humility.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Keep my ego down.
That's it, man.
Um,
No, dude, I'm so
yeah,
glad like my teenage band stuff just doesn't exist. I think just a few photos
yeah.
from that time, which is enough of a memento for me.
Oh yeah, no man, we made so many videos, and it's all sitting on my Google Drive, and I watch it every now and then. I'm like, God, we've really progressed. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not part of the band anymore. It was just me and my best friend. We were kind of a duo. That's where the Hudson Taylor kind of thing came in.
Mhm.
We were like a miniature Hudson Taylor. That's what we thought. Um, and yeah, we kind of just started playing together. We played. I think. Oh yeah, there's this thing called YSI in secondary school. I don't
Okay.
know if you're familiar with it.
I'm
It's
not,
like
no.
youth. It's sort of like CSPE, sort of political
Okay.
sort of education stuff. But there's this like retreat that we went on where there's a whole like, a bunch of different schools at this YSI retreat. I can't even remember what the subject was. It was some sort of political thing.
Yeah.
Um, but there was an open mic there. So we were like, oh yeah, we'll go up and we'll play a Riptide, and like, uh, so we went up and we did it, and there was a lot of people now, and we were absolutely shitting bricks. Um, there's also a video of that as well, which of
If
course there is. There's always a
you ever
video.
need to blackmail someone, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, but when we were playing it, there was a few girls now close to the stage and kind of looking at us, and afterwards, they came up to us like, "Oh my God, you're so great," and stuff. And we were like, "We got to do this more often." And then from then on, we were like, "We're in a band. Let's be a band." So yeah, the name of the band was called Elenay,
Okay.
Elenay, but it's like L and A. I was
Yeah.
A, and my friend was Liam, so L. Um,
Okay.
we thought it was clever. It's not a bad name. It's not a bad name.
I've heard
Um,
worse. I've definitely heard worse.
yeah, 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 yeah. um, but yeah, from then on, then we kind of just did more and more stuff. We joined Music Generation in Limerick,
Mhm.
and it was funny. The first day we went in, they were like, "All right, show us what we got." And at the time, I think we had written like two songs or something like that. And I remember because they brought us in, and they were like, "All right, get ready. We'd love to hear a song of yours." And we were talking then, like just between the two of us, like, do we actually show these guys our songs now in case they steal them? You know, like we don't want these guys stealing our songs, because we thought we were fucking unbelievable.
You should
Terrible
have
songs, man.
copyrighted them beforehand, gone in
Yeah,
and
yeah, 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 yeah. Have them signed an NDA,
yeah.
before we show it to them. Um, yeah, we thought we were the shit, man. It's so
No, but
funny
dude,
to
that's
think
like,
about.
I know it's like everyone is I guess it's better to think about these things than not, because like that's
Yeah, no, yeah.
how people get
You got
screwed
to
over.
reflect on it, learn and move from it. Yeah. But anyway, we got in, we played the songs, um, and yeah, and from there on, they kind of tutored us, in terms of songwriting, and gave us like sort of assignments, like, oh, write a song in like 2 weeks, or like about this certain subject or whatever. And then they'd organize gigs for us. We played. You're from Dublin, are you?
Yep.
Okay, yeah. So you wouldn't really be familiar with anything really going on. I suppose you'd be familiar with Dolan's in Limerick.
Of course, yeah, yeah. I've
We
I've been
played
there. I've
upstairs
been to the
Dolan's.
cash pod stuff, so
Oh yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Nice.
I know a
Um,
couple of venues there. I haven't been to them, but just know them by reputation. So try
yeah.
me.
Well, there was I think the first gig we played with Music Generation was it was sort of like an Oktober fest thing
Yeah.
that was happening there. Bit random, but I mean we weren't even old enough to drink at that time.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, we played there. That one wasn't too bad. But I remember in
You weren't
Dolan's.
legally old enough to drink yet. I just
No, 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 no. We weren't drinking at all.
we didn't
We
have the
don't drink. We,
biological
we
capability at
yeah.
16.
um, yeah. I so an important piece of information is my friend is like almost legally blind. Like he
Okay.
is terrible eyesight. He drives now, which is I always kind of find kind of funny. Um, But yeah, so he's really bad eyesight. And we played Dolan's upstairs. It was kind of like a collective thing, like like 5 or 6 acts were playing there, and we played upstairs. And oh, I hate this memory so much. But um, we played like we started playing a song, and what we did with because we were two acoustic guitars. That
Mhm.
was the way we played. So I would play like let's say a song was in C or something, and I would play C down at the bottom, and then Liam would put a capo on 5
Yeah,
and play, was it G or something like that? I think it's G. Yeah, music theory. I don't know.
yeah, I'm terrible at
Um,
it.
but for the first half of the song, he put the capo on 6,
Okay,
so he was a, a half step up
yeah.
for half of the song. And oh, like I didn't even notice, but it sounded so bad. And then halfway through the song, I kind of looked over and was like, and then I whispered over and was like, "Yeah, your cap was on the wrong one. You got to bring it down one." We played the rest of the song then. But yeah, oh my God, man. I probably won't ever get a gig in Dublin because of that, man. It's
Because
like,
that one
you remember
slip.
that one time?
You go back there, you're
Yeah.
like, oh, you're the capo guy. He's like, no.
Yeah, exactly. No, I
Actually, what was it
buried that
like
memory.
playing gigs around town? Because, like, I think, like, across Ireland, the big issue with sort of venues here, like, no matter whereabouts you are, is that they're all over 18s. There's very few all ages venues to be found anywhere. Yeah, I was wondering
Yeah, yeah.
from your perspective, what was that like trying to actually get shows when you were like underage?
Well, it's weird. Like we never really went out looking for actual venues ourselves. It was very much all organized through Music Generation, and if not, we were just busking. Um, but it wasn't really something I noticed back then. I was a child. I didn't care about anything. Um, but yeah, like it was something I didn't really notice because I wasn't really taking notice of it, and it wasn't like I was um actually actively pursuing music as a career at that point. It was kind of just like something we did for fun, and if we made it, we
Yeah.
made it great. So the kind of logistics of that sort of stuff, the business side of music, it never really crossed my mind at all back then.
What about actually
um
attending
but it's
shows?
funny.
Were you able to see gigs, right?
um Yeah, I remember there was a guy. At the time he was called Bri. I think just goes by Bri now. I don't
Okay.
know if you're familiar with him.
I might know.
Um, but his audience is much younger, and I think we were like 16 or 17. But we got a show. No, we he had a show in the Casbah, and we were let into that.
All right.
I think the Casbah must be like for teenagers younger than 18 as well. Because we went to a couple of shows of his and we were under 18.
Maybe you just
Um,
forgot to check ID.
Maybe, yeah. But Limerick is a very small place. The music scene is quite small. It's I know we were well connected with a guy called his stage his kind of music project was called Anna's Anchor. You might have heard of him.
I
He was
think I've heard
playing
of
in
this name.
Whelan's there recently.
Hmm.
Um, but we were good friends with him. We played acoustic sessions with him, but he was been in the industry for like decades. Um, and whenever like he'd always say, whenever there would be gigs happening, the hype is there, but actually getting people to come to the show is
Yeah.
very difficult. And it might be the case in Dublin, maybe, but it was a lot. It's quite bad in Limerick for that. There'd be so many acts that would um, hype up a show about it in Limerick and then it actually not being a lot of people going there, even though people are saying, "Oh yeah, I'll go there," but then they never do.
Yeah,
So
no, that definitely
that
happens
would,
here too. Yeah.
yeah. But yeah, but as I said, it wasn't really something that crossed our minds back then. So we didn't really worry about that sort of thing. Um, but yeah, so then um I moved up to Dublin for college. I studied film and TV production, which is handy for making music videos.
Yeah.
Um, so
Where
so we
where'd you
kind of we kind
go?
of went to IEDT, Dunleary.
Ah, same. I'm also IDT.
Oh, really? What did you do?
New media studies. I got
Oh, yeah,
into
cool.
film and TV, but I just decided to do new media studies instead. So,
Mm.
which has been handy for this website.
Yeah, yeah. Pretty
We probably had
cool.
some similar lectures too, actually. I won't bore the
Oh,
audience with
man.
that, but
They're all fucking weird in there, man.
I think they're all lovely if you're listening, Diogo, or if you're
Oh,
listening,
yeah, yeah, of course. They're
if you're
they're
listening,
weird in
Deirdre.
a good way, you
Yeah.
know?
You gotta be weird to go to Dunleary.
Yeah, you do, you do.
It's not even really Dunleary, it's Kill Avenue. But yeah.
Yeah, yeah. We won't say any more about that in case I go off.
In
But
case you want to go back to your masters there. They do masters there now, which they didn't do when I was.
they do, yeah, yeah.
They did it after. I think it was the year after I left there. You introduced the masters program. I've only
Already.
graduated there like 2 years ago. So
Oh,
okay.
hmm.
Sorry.
That's always the kind of the case with college. Like after you leave, then they build a whole new building or something like that.
Yeah.
Always the new features come in right after you leave.
The worst part was the canteen was so great there. So I'm just gonna be talking about IDT now. I'll try and get back on topic. But the canteen used to have lovely chips there, and then they changed the recipe. It's like,
They
oh my
did,
God, it's
man.
like so sad.
Yeah, they had nice chicken there as well.
Yeah,
It was pretty good.
yeah.
The only
But
thing that
the
annoyed me
restaurant
actually
there was
was
pretty
like,
good there, to be fair.
yeah, yeah, it
Bit
was. But
pricey,
the only thing
but
that annoyed me was, oh yeah, well it's done Leary. Like, so what do you
yeah,
expect? But what annoyed me was how like it wouldn't be open all day.
yeah,
There would only be in the morning, and then have a few hours where there's absolutely nothing, and
yeah,
then lunchtime, and then absolutely nothing,
yeah.
and that's it.
I remember hanging back, going to the library there and stuff, and then just like, you go in just to get like a canned monster or something just to kind of keep you going. And
Yeah.
there'd be like someone reluctantly serving you at like six
Mm.
o'clock. You're like, I'm so sorry.
Yeah,
The
yeah, yeah.
Starbucks too, I remember used to close like real early too. That was even worse because I would open in the morning time at like 9 or
Yeah, yeah,
whatever,
yeah, yeah.
and then it was closed by like 4 or 5. I can't remember. It's been a while, but
Well, I don't actually drink coffee, so I didn't really
oh
frequent it, but I know that like it was pretty bare bones
yeah.
later on in the day,
They also closed the cost. Was it cost? I forget what thing, but in the chapel, they used to have the coffee shop
Oh
there.
yeah, the sort of
I think
cafe
they
thing
closed
that
that permanently. Yeah, but
already.
yeah. Sorry, as you were saying,
Grand.
you went to
Anyway,
IDT to study film
yeah, I
and
went to
television.
IDT. Went to IDT. um, got my I kind of took a little bit of a hiatus from music at that point. I had when I first moved up, I did write a few songs, which I made into an EP
Yeah.
called Ignite.
Hmm.
Um, I did that in 2019. I recorded it in late 2019, and then I did nothing
Yeah.
with it. I didn't release it until
2021.
2021
What happened
because I
in
was like,
2020?
COVID, man, and depression, man. That's what happened.
Yeah, no fair.
But in 2021, I was like, what am I doing sitting on this EP? Like, what? I have it recorded. I might as well just release it. So I released it, and I did nothing with it. And then I was like, why is nothing going on with it? Like, I'm not getting any streams on it. What the hell? Like, obviously not. I didn't do anything
But
with
you
it.
just think like
I think
you
I
do
put
kind of think
three
you just throw
Instagram
it out
posts
there,
up.
eventually it'll find its audience, don't you? That's always
Yeah,
like the
yeah,
thing.
it's so good that eventually it will, make it.
Yeah.
But no, no. So, yeah, after that, then I kind of took a big break. I mean, I was writing music, but in terms of like actually pursuing it and releasing, recording, I didn't.
Mhm.
Um, You know what's good for writing music?
What's that?
Bad mental health.
Yeah, well, I think everyone has that now. I think
Yeah.
collectively, I don't know anyone who's been happy. So yeah, truly happy. I mean, there are people who pretend to be, but
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. But
My joke, and I shouldn't surmise what how other people are feeling. I think I'm just
yeah.
such a cynical prick that like I just see someone happy, I'm like they're faking
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah,
You can't be content.
yeah, yeah. But yeah, so then I was writing a lot of music. I wrote an album um while yeah, so during that kind of 4 years of college, um I met my girlfriend who after like 7 or 8 months moved to Australia for a year.
Okay.
And obviously that was bad.
Mhm.
And that's where all the songs came from.
Yeah.
I mean, I wrote a couple we were still together, but a lot of it came and sort of reminiscing of that time and struggling with mental health. But she came back, which is great, and we live together now, which
Oh.
is brilliant. I'm sick of each other now, though.
Yeah, go back to Australia now.
Maybe I need to move this time. Um, but yeah, so I actually, I know we're talking about this single that I released, but I actually just finished recording a 12-track album, which is the album I wrote,
This
with a
is
little bit
Dark
of
World, yeah.
Dark Earth. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Oh, I read it in the Airmo thing. Imro, what we doing? Yeah, I thought it
When
said
we'll
Dark
mess it
World
up.
and that. That's how I wrote it down. Maybe I just wrote it down wrong. I just misread it, but I wrote
Oh
Dark
no, we'll check
World.
out Emerald real quick and see if they messed it up.
To be fair, I just messed up Imro's
Dark
name.
World. But surely, like, they would have just copy and pasted the press release.
Maybe I
And
just
you know what? I'll
misread it.
figure it out later.
I know. I
But
think I
no,
think
it's
I'm
called
undiagnosed dyslexic. Sorry.
oh,
So maybe it was just
fair
me.
enough, fair
But
enough.
Dark Earth, yeah,
Dark Earth, yeah, yeah. Just finished recording it. I recorded it with the same producer that recorded the EP, five, and the single I just released. Fun fact about that single, I did record it 4 years ago, and
yeah.
I sat on it for 4 years.
You know, it's
um,
interesting though, because you were mentioning that, and yeah, it takes one to know one, and it's funny, like knowing that now that it's been like 4 years, because for me, again, talking about kind of like I don't know if film or cinema influences your music or if the two are separate passions, but for me, it was
mhm.
actually kind of evoking once I realized what the theme was. It kind of evoked that movie. Oh God, what's it called off the top of my head? After so, oh, geez, I can't remember it now. It's the movie with
Oh, the
Paul
one with
Mescal.
Paul Mescal. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and
yeah.
so after something, it was. I saw that in the
Yeah.
cinema. It reminded me of that, the theme of that. I'm just gonna look up the title of that
Oh,
film to
that's
make
good to
sure.
know.
I
That's
think
good
it's
to know.
After Sun off the top of my head.
Yeah, I think it is called After Sun.
Yes, it is. Yeah,
it is very I did want it to be a sort of a summer kind of song that evokes that
yeah,
sort of summer look.
yeah.
And it's funny you bring up film influence in my music, and it very much does. Um, and very much with this album, it's we went for if we had to sum it up in one word, it'd be cinematic. Um, we I don't know if we should even talk about this because like I don't know when I'm gonna start releasing singles
It's up
from
to you.
it.
Yeah.
Um, but no, well, it's more interesting than
Okay.
than what I did 4 years ago. Um, we brought a lot of classical instruments into it. Um, it's still a pop record. It's pop rock. Um, but there's so much different styles going on in it. There's like there's a bit of indie in there. There's what actually surprised me most is a lot of Americana stuff kind of came into it. Um, and it's funny, like people say, "Oh, what are your influences?" I'm like,
Yeah.
man, I have no idea. I think a lot of influences are actually subconscious,
Mhm.
and I really struggle to put it into words like what influences me. You know,
Yeah.
it's mainly like it's probably a lot of childhood stuff, you know, like I grew up on U2 and Elvis and The Script and James Blunt, that sort of thing. That's all what my parents listened to the whole time, and I think this album has sort of fallen back into that sort of thing, where it's pop rocky. Um, because I was considering like with I kind of see it as like an era. Like there's the Ignite era with the EP, and this is a new era. And I was trying to figure out what sort of music style I wanted to do, and I was considering like electronic stuff, and I just didn't know how to write for that.
Yep.
And like because I had the album written. Excuse me, I had the album written, and I was like, what if we, you know, what if I did like some sort of electronic stuff with it? And I was like, I don't even know where to begin how to do that. And so when the time came to actually record it, I kind of did not have a vision for it at all. And it's something I think that a lot of artists should learn how to do because I think a lot of them have a very specific vision for what they want to create. Um, you know, like, oh, I wrote it this way, so you know, we got to keep it like that, and then I was imagining this. Um, and while that's good to an extent, I think having an open mind and considering everything is very important. So, like with this album, as I said, you know, I had no specific vision for it. I basically came in and was like, I made some shitty demos for my producer, just on my Blue Yeti right here.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so he listened to them and came up with some ideas. And I basically just went, here are the songs, let them become what they need to become, you know? Um, and I brought in so many different collaborators. There's a guy named Tom Hartman from the Netherlands who I brought over. He came over actually specifically to help me with the record. And he's very much into that sort of folky Americana stuff. And I think what kind of that's like he kind of brought that side of the record into that sort of Americana. Um, and then we also there was also another guy, Toby Shane Royce, who helped out with the EP and the single. He did basically all the music for that stuff. Um, and he came back to help with drums and bass, which is great because his drum style is very swingy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's very like you know, it's kind of all over the place, and he loves just whacking it. You know, and
I'm gonna
that's
have
what it
fun
needs. You know.
transcribing that, by the way.
Are you
He
going to
makes
actually
gestures.
yeah, yeah, makes sounds air drumming, yeah. Are you going to actually type this all out, or are you going to put the
I
actual
don't know.
audio?
I tend to do them varies. It depends.
Okay, yeah.
I just
Yeah,
listen
that
back
one
to
might
it.
be a bit difficult to write.
No, I actually I always enjoy things like that where you have to kind of put things in parentheses and be
The
like,
creative with
and
it,
then
yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
makes high pitched noise I wrote before,
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah. Yeah.
all this kind of stuff.
Um,
Sorry.
yeah. But anyway, yeah. So we had Toby come in to do drums and bass. I was originally going to get him on lead guitar because he did lead guitar for all the other stuff, and I thought he was great. But then he was like, "Oh, I'm heading off to Morocco that week for like 3 weeks." I'm like,
Yeah.
"I've only a month to record this record. Why are you leaving?" And so he went off to Morocco, and I got this other guy in Fernando Antunes. You might have heard of him. He's actually doing pretty well on Spotify. Um, but I met him the start of this year, and I was like, you know, he's really cool. I love what he does with his own stuff, and I'll bring him in to see what he can do with some lead guitar. Um, and oh my God, he brought the record to life, man. It was amazing. Like he's just a genius on electric guitar. Like he really like, and what I did was like, I didn't say, "Oh, Ronaldo, I need you to do something like this, something like this." I was just like, "Here's the song. What do you hear on it?" And he just went off, and I did not say a word. I was just like I think he did lead guitar for like nine of the songs on the record, and I didn't tell him what
How
to do
many
for
altogether?
anything.
Sorry.
Oh, 12
Okay, 9 of 12.
on
Yeah.
the full thing.
Oh, sorry. I
Yeah,
actually have that written down. 12-track album.
don't worry about
I got to
it.
read my own notes.
Yeah, yeah.
But even then, they're not reliable. I called it Dark World. So yeah.
What can you do? What can you do? But yeah, so I just let him off, and he just created amazing shit, man. Amazing shit. Like at one point, there's one of the songs that's on it, the second last song. It's called "Paralyzed." It's probably my favorite song that I've written on it. Um, but at towards the end, it sort of like cracks out into a huge instrumental. Um, and while he was just messing around on the guitar, like what we do is just play the song, and he messes around with something and comes up with stuff. And he we would record it as well in case we found any magic. Um, but right at that point, it goes like, "I'm feeling paralyzed," and then it's like, wow, 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 goes crazy, right? But he comes
Mhm.
up with this sort of like solo that's like, "Bah, bah, 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 da, da, da," and it just goes off. And oh, I had to step out and like cry a little because it was like perfect. It was
Yeah.
exactly what I imagined when I wrote it. Um, so yeah, I'm very happy I brought him in. I'm actually very happy that Toby fucked off to Morocco at that point to bring him in because oh yeah, it was great. But Toby came back and did lead guitar for the first three because we had practiced a little bit and he had come up with some great stuff for those three. So those three were his songs. Um, but yeah, no, I'm delighted with this record and like if I had to say what I learned from it is and keep an open mind. Um, Collaborate with as many people as you can on it because collaboration is the key to quality, and keep an open mind for suggestions. Fun fact about this single, actually, probably talk about the single itself, right? Um,
By the way, I
uh,
have a lot of
I
avenues to go down. So we'll
say
talk
again,
about the
sorry.
single. No, I have a lot of avenues to go down. You give me a lot of material to
Oh yeah,
ask you
grand,
about.
grand, grand.
We're
Cool, good
talking about
stuff.
the single, yes.
Um, yeah. So the single,
Well, first of
it's
all, why
not
did
on
you
the.
choose
It's
it as kind of the first representation of the record?
Well, it's funny. It's not. It's
Okay.
not on the record.
Oh well, okay.
It's just kind of a single that's sort of in that in between.
Mhm.
It's kind of in between the Ignite era and the Dark Earth era. Um,
It's I'm still
and
alive single.
yeah, yeah, it's basically yeah.
Sorry to
But
be
I
cynical
recorded
again.
it like pretty soon. I recorded it pretty soon after I did the Ignite
Mhm.
EP. So um, it was cool to kind of branch out into that more rock stuff.
Mhm. Sorry, just to be clear,
Because
when you did so you did the Ignite, you recorded the Ignite EP in
mm,
2019. So
yeah.
would this have been recorded around 2019, 2020, or
Oh yeah, I think Jesus, I think it was only a couple of months later I recorded it. I think I
so would
recorded
it
the
just like
EP
been
in like
before the pandemic probably?
oh yeah, I think it was I think it was right when we were hearing like um when we were seeing the memes of the beginning of of COVID
Okay.
in
Yeah.
China.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
was like that sort of thing that was
It's
happening.
probably like January
Um
2020 sort of.
Something like that. Yeah, I think it
Yeah.
was, it was like December or something like that. Yeah, but I
Okay.
saw that my producer put up like this sort of deal on his website. It was like buy one day, get one free, and you can basically get a song done there for like
Yeah.
I think it was like 400 quid or something like that. So I jumped on that and was like, I'll get another song done.
And just sorry,
Um,
just to, before I'll let you continue now. Just wanted to ask, clarify one more thing. So when you recorded the songs in 2019, were they like
mhm.
fully done, like mastered as you wanted to release them, or did the mastering and the kind of mixing and all that come after?
um, so Barry Duncan is the producer. He's produced everything I've done. He uh did all the recording. He has his own studio in Portlaoise, brilliant studio, really cool. I'll talk more about that after. Let me answer your question. So he did all the recording, he did all the mixing, and he did all the mastering. So
Shit, that's a good deal.
um, yeah, well, I like he was saying that ideally you'd get someone else to master or
Yep.
even to mix it, you know, but I didn't have the money. I still don't have the money to do that with the album, so
No, that's
it's
fair.
fine. Because getting fresh ears on it is always good if you have the funds. But
Hmm.
the album is expensive enough that for now I'm not going to do that.
No,
um,
absolutely, absolutely.
but yeah, so he's done. Yeah, he's produced, he's mixed, he's mastered everything I've done. Great guy. He's really great to work with because he's not just a an engineer who is just like presses record and he's like off you go. You know,
Mhm.
he's very much part of the creative process. Which leads me into what I was originally going to say about the single. Um, when I originally wrote it, um, I don't know how many times you listened to it, but like we kind of cut the last chorus, the kind of breakdown chorus in half and
Mhm.
go into an all out instrumental with like oohs and right. Originally, I hadn't written it like that, and it was like traditionally, it was more traditional ending where it went back into the chorus, probably repeated again, and then finished. And when we were recording, Gary was like, "What if we just cut the chorus in half and went into an all out instrumental?" And I was like, I don't know. Because I was very much stuck to that what I originally wrote it,
Mhm.
but I was like, let's do it. Why not? And I'm very happy that it turned out that way because it's just more interesting. Um, so yeah, he's very much part of the creative process. He like when I sent him on those shitty demos of the album, he listened to them for like a week, writing down notes
Yeah.
and like different ideas. Like with one song, um, which is probably the number one song on the album. Um, it was his number one, and he was like, "Magic, man, magic! It's a beautiful song. I know exactly how to do this." I'm like, "Work away,
Yeah.
off you go. Let's do it. Whatever you want to do, let's do it." And he was like, uh, let's bring in a little bit of ukulele. Let's bring in some like weird droney stuff, and we're gonna get a cello on this." I'm like, "I don't know anyone who plays the cello," and he's like, Don't worry, I know a guy. He's brilliant." And
I know a cello guy.
song is unbelievable, man. It was actually a guy on Fiverr that he's used a
Oh
few
yeah.
times. And like usually when you get like a musician off a Fiverr or whatever, and they send you on the recording, you're kind of like, oh, I wish you'd do like this, maybe, and they'll give you like a revision or whatever. This guy, he just sent to it and was like, perfect,
Yeah.
perfect. Like vocals come last when recording, and we had all the instrumental done, and when he got the cello, um, he put it on. I think he got the cello like the evening, and I had just left, and he's like, "Got the cello, man," and I'm like, "What do you think?" And he's like, "You'll find out tomorrow." I'm like, "Oh, I'm not going to be able to sleep." But I got back in then the next morning, and he put it on, and both of us just like I think I definitely cried at that
Yeah.
point. Man, it is. Oh, it's beautiful what that
I
cellist
think
did. I
it
can't remember his name. He's a Ukrainian man, and I can't remember his name. But unbelievable player. But yeah,
I think it's great,
my
sorry, that
girlfriend.
you've gone from like being afraid that like, people are gonna see your music to just like, giving your stuff out to people on Fiverr.
Yeah, right. It's funny.
Maturity.
Well, yeah, but I trusted Gary with that.
Of course,
Like
of
he
course.
he knows
Yeah, I'm
exactly.
just joking.
Oh, I know you are. But it's good to mention that he's very trustworthy, and he produces to emotion. You
Mhm.
know, he's like this is like like what I did was send him on when I sent the demos, like, here's the demos, and then I sent another document with the names and the themes.
Mhm.
So like I explained what the song is actually about. And he was like, "This is great. I can take the emotion from that and produce towards that. So if he gets a song, he's not going to add drums and guitar and bass to it just because that's what you do with recording. Like Like we didn't add any drums to it. What we did with this song, it's called "Baby I Want You," by the way. With this song, the only percussion we added was a little bit of like timpani drums, where it's like do, you know, those kind of things,
Hmm.
as well as like a programmed bass hit, which we changed to make it sound like a heartbeat,
Okay.
which is really cool. Um, but yeah, I always kind of find it funny about talking about a song that you can't listen to right now, you know.
It's like you have
So
to kind of
sorry about
imagine it
that.
from the description. Well, dude, have you ever
Yeah,
read like a book on music, like any kind of book on music, and they're describing songs that you haven't actually heard yet? It always drives me bonkers when like I'm reading a book or
yeah.
like even sometimes like people's autobiographies and they'd be like, "Oh, I went into this shop and this song was playing and I'm not familiar with the song or whatever," and then I can't rest until I like listen to it on
Mm.
YouTube.
Yeah. I know what you mean. I know what you
Yeah.
mean. That's another thing about like pre-save campaigns.
Yeah.
I think they're the most pointless things ever. Because
Yeah.
if you're talking about a song and you're like, oh, you know, it's like this and it's got this, and we did it like with
Yeah.
whatever, you know, but the person cannot listen to the song, and that is only annoying.
Oh, I'll
Even
tell you
as
what a
a
lot.
listener myself, you know,
Yeah. I'll tell
like
you what a
I'd
lot of
never.
artists are doing now that I think is really clever for that is they'll upload reels which has a segment of the song like on
Mm,
Facebook or TikTok or sorry, not Facebook, Instagram or TikTok or
yeah.
one of these platforms, or they'll upload like live footage if they play the song live and they'll do it like
Mm.
that and that kind of incentivizes people to pre-save. I think that's kind of the smarter way of doing it rather than just nebulously going like our new song is the best thing we've ever released and you'll get to hear it
Hmm.
Friday at midnight,
Yeah. Oh no, I'm totally cool with that. I just think focusing your creative energy into
Oh yeah.
pre-save campaign is not as good. Like
Mhm.
if you have if you have like a an idea for a video, you know the way we have to be dumb with these stupid ass little videos on the internet now. I would, if you have a good idea for one of those, I would save it for post release so people can actually listen to the song if the video is, you know,
Yeah.
if it gets popular or whatever.
And that's also the other
I
thing
wouldn't.
too, is that like when you make a music video too, I think like because of things like previews, like we said, like previews are such a big thing on things like, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, that's like, you also have to kind of be considerate that like what you're visualizing can work at 1:1, you know. It's just
Mm,
like it's such
yeah.
like 18, what's it, 1080 by 1920. You have to consider that it's
Mm,
like gonna be fit for that kind of
yeah,
um
like nine
format. And
sixteen
it's like
ratio.
oof,
Yeah.
because that's so limiting, and it's like then not
Hmm.
only that, but it also has to kind of coincide with the best like 15 seconds of the song too.
Yeah.
It's just like it's
Hmm.
so restrictive. I don't know how people do it. I would go mad.
I know, yeah. It's funny actually. I just today I released sort of a lyric visualizer for the song, which is just me in the park, just jamming away to the song. Um, and the most interesting part about it is at the beginning of the video, I'm interrupted by this random dog who just comes up to the camera and is like just standing there, you know,
Yeah,
which is great. And like at the time, I kind of was like, oh, you know, this kind of ruined the video. But then I was like, no,
yeah.
this is actually pretty good, you know. So I went
Then
with
the
that.
dog didn't sign the lease to get featured in the video, so now you're gonna get sued. And
Yeah, maybe
what
we'll
happens?
see, we'll see. But what in terms of the aspect ratio for that, I just kind of because in the video I'm sort of to the left
Yep.
and the lyrics kind of come up here on the other side, so I can't really cut it into that sort of 9:16 ratio
Yeah.
because if it's just lyrics, it's kind of pointless, and if it's just me, then it's not a lyric video,
Yeah.
is it?
And also
So
then once you have the aspect ratio too, those platforms still fucking cut the videos. You're like, for fuck's sake, because I've been
yeah,
doing like them
yeah.
now. I've been using the short features, and I real like now I have to like readjust everything because I'm like, okay, that's
Mm,
you have the right ratio. But then I realize
yeah,
when you're adding things like subtitles or adding even just like text in the video, like the edges keep getting cut off and the bottom
yeah.
and the top get cut off. I'm like, for fuck's
Hmm.
sake.
Yeah, and so,
It's
and
a
with
nightmare,
subtitles as
man.
well, you got to worry about the sort of like text that's at the bottom, like on TikTok and Instagram, like
It's
the
insane.
name of the account and all that sort of thing. So you got to bring
Yes.
your subtitles up a little bit too, you know.
YouTube's the worst for that, by
Um,
the way. like just having
Yeah,
to
I
ship.
know.
Yeah.
But what I was going to say, for that video, I put the actual video normal size, small in. So if you imagine like the box, right? This is
Hmm.
916, and I put the full video in the middle. So usually you'd have a black box up here and black box at the
Yeah.
bottom. But what I did was just put a zoomed in version of it behind it and blurred it,
Oh yeah,
and
yeah.
then I put like the name on the top.
That's yeah. That's
God damn, I did this. Sorry.
th- that's a very smart way of actually going about it. Like, yeah.
Yeah, it just adds something. What you could also
So
do
it's
is
like
just triple it
a
too, you know?
so the middle would be kind of like a 1080 by 1080 video, and then just yeah, makes
Yeah,
sense. Yeah.
pretty much. So we're not losing anything. It's just small, and
Hmm.
then it's just got
Yeah.
everything else behind it, a blurred version of it. And then I
Yeah.
just put like the text, the name of it or whatever on top. Yeah, I just put that up on Instagram there earlier, a couple
Do
hours
you
ago.
find actually what you learned at IDT, because it seems kind of um because I actually do, like, I'm not a shill for IDT. I went there and I really
Mm,
find that kind of doing the new media studies really has helped me with this website, where things I
mm,
was doing that at the time I was just doing for the sake of passing a module have
yeah.
actually become useful now. Like,
Mm,
for example, like I learned Audacity. It's a very simple program, but I learned it for like one
yeah.
of my modules. I learned DaVinci Resolve, which I use for video editing now for one of my modules. I learned a
Hmm.
lot of stuff just for, passing certain exams or not exams, essays or kind of projects. And then,
Yeah.
now they have kind of come back. Do you find like now, um, the stuff you actually learned at IDT has been beneficial to what you're doing now, even though, film and television production seems doesn't seem very conducive to being a musician, you know?
Mm. Well, I think I think especially nowadays they're a lot more connected because
Hmm.
everything is visual now with music. Um, so yeah, for sure, what I learned at my film course definitely translates into music. With doing music videos, sort of because I majored in direction. So, and when you're a director, you are creating something to evoke emotion in a viewer. And so you're kind of doing the same thing as a musician. So in a way, you're a director of music, you
Hmm.
know. So having experience in kind of both of those is good, to in sort of trying to make sure that emotion comes across because a lot of success comes from, and especially on TikTok now, a lot of the success comes from saying what emotion this person will feel if they listen to your song.
Yeah.
Like telling people that you have a song is not going to be as effective as this is what you're going to feel if you listen to it. You know,
Hmm. Yeah.
people are all about emotion with music. Music isn't an emotion changing drug. That's what music is, and it definitely, my education as a director definitely translates, and especially with emotion. One other big thing that's my film education and being in sort of the film industry is I meet so many people who are in the industry, but what they do is very non-creative.
Hmm.
So when I come to them and say, "Look, I got a couple of songs. I'd love you to do a music video on one of them," they jump at the opportunity because it's something creative that they can
Yeah.
do. And
Rather than
half the time
administrative
they'd be
work.
like, "Yeah, exactly." Like, and not that we should be getting free work out of people, but they have offered to do it for free.
Hmm.
I just finished a music video. I haven't it fully edited. Also, I should mention that I like being just the artist in these music videos. So, like, I just finished recording a music video for the single, which will be coming out on the 31st, if it gets edited by that time. um, but it was with my friend that I've been friends with for years. We're just film friends. Um, David Coleman. He's in the industry and he does a lot of technical stuff. And then when I'm offering something creative. He's like, hell yeah, let's do it. And what I told him was like, all right, here's the song. It's a summer song, so I'd like the video to be somewhere sunny, as difficult as that is for Ireland, and I'd like to be in it. That's all I told him. And then he came back with this idea, wacky idea, um, and I was like, yeah, cool, fucking let's do it. It's cool. So I'll tell you about the idea, right?
Yep.
So, um, loosely based on a true story, very loosely, mostly the start. So my girlfriend moves to a different country.
Mhm.
That's where the true story ends, really. She goes to a new country. I'm
Yeah.
wallowing in self pity. And I find that I can use a suitcase as a portal to another suitcase in that country.
Okay.
So, but I can only get my arm through for most of the music video. So basically, it's my girlfriend being haunted by this suitcase with an arm that's chasing after her. And eventually, she's like, after she's being chased by it, and eventually she's like, you know what? Fuck this. Walks up to it, grabs it, and chucks it into the ocean. And then in the ocean, I finally make my way through and I emerge from the suitcase. I'm like, what the fuck? Why would you throw me into the ocean? And then then I walk up to her and we walk off into the sunset. And that's it.
Absolutely. I'm just thinking, but my head is now going to the practicality of actually shooting that.
Oh, it's all shot. It was quite difficult. Uh Luckily we did the ocean stuff. Well, we did ocean stuff in 2 days. The first
Okay.
day was quite cold. We were getting the last shot on the first day where we're walking off into the sunset. But since I just emerged from the ocean, I had to be wet. So I had to go in, dive under, and come back out so we could get the shot. And it was freezing. We did it down in Spanish Point on the west
Okay.
of Ireland.
Yeah.
It's near Lahinch. Um, in County Kerry or County Clare. I can't remember which one, but they're close together. Um, but then the next day we got the shot where I emerged from the suitcase. What we did was just cut the back out of the suitcase, and then I sort of like put it on top of me, and I kind of ducked under the water like that, and then like I just did like the zip, and then I come up. It looked pretty good. It looks pretty
Yeah.
good. But while we were doing that, a lifeguard like surfed up to him and was like, what are you doing?
And you
Because
go,
we just had
art.
this suitcase in the ocean. And we're like, oh, we're just shooting a music video. And he's like, this is a riptide, lads. You can't be shooting here. And like, we're only up to our waist. Is that okay? And he's like,
Yeah.
yeah, but don't go out any further.
I'm surprised he didn't ask the traditional question, can I be in it?
Yeah.
That's what they always
Doing
ask, can I
there's a
be in it?
video and that's what
Yeah.
I always used to hear back then. Back in Limerick is like, if we were shooting a music video, because we did a couple of music videos, me and my friend Liam. It's like, oh, you're doing a bit of video on, is it? Doing a
Yeah.
bit of video on.
You
That's
always
that.
want
That's
to, like when people ask, what are you shooting? Because that's what a lot of people ask. You always want to have like a funny response, but like in that moment, your brain just goes porn. And that's not funny. Like everyone's heard that a million times. But like, I was thinking like, I was like, one time it was like a tourism video for Israel or something like that. I was like, that
right.
probably is a bit divisive.
Maybe nowadays, yeah.
I want if someone can get the perfect response for that, like something that's like absurd and makes them wish they didn't ask,
Yeah.
but at the same time isn't so like, or just like the new Woody Allen movie or something like that, just something that kind of would throw them off their guard a little bit, but isn't so
Yeah.
ridiculous that they wouldn't believe it.
Yeah. Well, you see, there'd be like old women that come up to us, and I don't want
Yeah.
to tell an old woman now that we're shooting porn, so we're just like, oh yeah, it's
And then they were like,
just
"Can
a
I
little
be in
film.
it?"
Yeah. Or it's like, oh, it's for RTE, is it? Oh yeah, it is, yeah.
Yeah, it's always awkward too, because like you try to explain it to people, and a lot of times actually, even if it's not, you just go student film or something like just something like that, kind of
Yeah.
just goes like, yeah, oh, what's it
They
about? It's a
also,
romantic thing, because
yeah.
they're curious. It's like answering enough that it satisfies your curiosity, but at the same time, not so detailed that you're spending like, your whole day explaining the concept.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But
Then
a lot
he
of the
opens the
time as well,
suitcase. Oh, he opens the suitcase and there's a hand,
yeah, yeah, yeah. We actually had something similar. This American guy came up to us, and we were strapping a GoPro to the suitcase because
Yeah.
we were fucking it down a hill.
Hmm.
And he came up was like, "What is happening here?" And we were just like, "Oh, we're just shooting a music video."
Yeah.
I had to
And also,
explain it a little bit there, but yeah, people come up to you and see, they either come up to you and ask a bunch of questions, or they don't come up to you and just look at the
yes.
alien technology of a camera that you're using. They're like, "What is that?"
Well, the worst one is like,
Also,
when you're shooting and they actually look at the camera as they're going by, you're like, oh,
yeah, yeah, yeah. Just
yeah.
like, just stop looking. Like it just
But take
ruins
his
the
room
shot.
to, yeah.
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 Plus, bringing a camera to a beach filled with kids, it's not a good look. You
Oh
know.
yeah, I didn't even consider
Yeah,
that.
yeah. But yeah, I'm excited for this music video to come together. Like my friend is big into VFX, so he'll be able to like we basically got like I put the camera on a tripod and we got like the suitcase on a bit of fishing line and we just kind of like dragged it, like dragged it. And then we had me go in like the same locked off tripod shot, and we just go in and I would go like this and just drag myself across the floor with my arm like in the shot
Yeah,
so he could then put those together,
yeah.
and he says it's going to look good. I don't
Yeah, I
know
was just
how
gonna
he's
say,
going
what
to
if you
do it,
get
but
back and it looks like shit? You're like, God. It's just like clearly, it's just like all he does is like take the arm shot, crop it, and just like put the opaque. Oh, I can't say it, opaque opacity. I can't say the word. But he
yeah, I know
just
what you mean. Yeah,
lowers it down, and then so it's just
yeah,
like see through. You're like, oh my
yeah,
God.
yeah, 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 yeah. No, I trust him. He's actually pretty good now. He actually modeled my arm, like
Okay.
in case we needed it, So I
Wow.
just held out my arm like that, and he just like started scanning it with his phone and just went and it came out really well. Like he showed it to me and was like, this is creepy. It's just like my arm in
Yeah.
in Blender, in the kind of
Yeah. Yeah.
program that he uses. But yeah, really cool. I'm excited to see it. He says it's going well. He has like a sort of he has a rough cut of it done. So he's starting all the VFX now.
And to be clear, that video
So
is for which song?
this is for the single that's out
Perfect.
already.
Yeah. I just wanted to make sure because I
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
surmised that was the case, but yeah, just to be
But it's
100%
a
certain.
it's it's a beach. It's at the beach. It symbolizes or no, it's a good representation of the sort of summer aspect of the song, which is what I wanted.
Yeah.
Oh, we also got some drone footage of me at the edge of a cliff playing the guitar.
Yeah.
So we're gonna sprinkle that in as well. Pretty cool. Yeah, I'm excited to see it because it's visually interesting, even if it makes
Yeah.
no sense. It's like this suitcase with an arm. You know, I think yeah, it's fun. But that's what I wanted to be. I want to make sure like that what I do is fun.
Yeah.
Like my music can sometimes be sad,
Mhm.
and I don't want to be like, oh, my music is sad, and I'm also sad.
Yeah.
You know,
And you should be
I'm
sad
like,
too.
yeah, yeah, no, I don't want it to be like that. Like music to get deep now. Music saved me,
Yeah.
and I use it as sort of it really helped my mental health. I'm much better mentally now, and
Mhm.
it's because of music. Um, so I don't want I want to have this music that can be sad and show that the result of it can actually lead to happiness.
Yeah.
There's a song on the record called Broken, and it's about depression, but it's about community in depression. Like there's so many people that suffer from depression that is actually a collective, like there's a community in that, and
Yeah.
even though we're broken together, and that's okay,
Mhm.
and we'll make it because we're all together.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I think it's
and
interesting about depression, despondency, because I have it too, and anxiety, like
mhm,
like everyone. And I think like what we're seeing now is that it's not really the individualized kind of thing that it was always like depression isn't the individualized thing that I think we were always led to believe it was. I think there is a collective depression, which I don't really blame anyone for having. I think like
Yeah.
despondency is such a kind of natural response to the world we're living in, where I
Mm,
think like there's just no not to get too depressing, but like myself, but like or just get too defeatist myself, but like
mm,
you know, I think people see there's no real prospects of kind of security that maybe people once had in terms of housing, in
hmm.
terms of job security, in terms of everything. I mean, I think everyone just feels like everything is so short term and ephemeral.
Yeah.
I think that causes a lot of anxiety because like, you know, again, not to romanticize it, but like there was an era where, you know, if you were in a job, you knew you were going to be there till retirement and you knew that you were
Hmm.
going to have a house and there was security in that where it's just something that exists anymore. It's always kind of like, you know, I'll put a lease down for this house, but will I be able to pay it? You know what I
Hmm.
mean?
Yeah,
Like,
for sure,
will I still
man.
be working this job in 2 years? You know, it's
Yeah,
just I think
exactly.
and I think like everyone's kind of experiencing that now, and I think like you know yeah, I mean, I think a lot of our depression and anxieties, if you really talk to people, have a lot of the same root. I mean, everyone's different, and obviously, there's going to be how people react to things is going to be different. But I think if you actually talk to people about kind of their reason, their mental health issues, you know, what's kind of bothering them, I think a lot of it is um, just down to kind of the kind of confusion and lack of security that modern living kind of brings. You know. I don't know if you
No, for
agree with me on
sure.
that,
Like,
but
yeah, no, I think no, you're definitely right. Like housing is a joke now.
yeah,
I'm actually thinking of buying a van and converting it into a camper and just
mm,
living in that, to be honest.
yeah,
Um,
which is good
but
until
I
you need to have
think
an address, you know.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Um, but yeah, as well as housing, I think a lot of people are pursuing they're pursuing passion more, I think,
Mm,
in this modern day because, you know, I'm trying to figure out how to say this, like back in our like parents' era or their generation, you find a job and if it's a good paying job, you do it. And if like I think mental health was really like buried down in that generation.
totally.
And with our generation, it's very much not taboo anymore and we can discuss it.
It's at
And
the
it
forefront,
seems
I
like it's
think.
on it's on the it seems like it's more common, but I think it's just the way things were, except we're actually talking about it now, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
Um, and I think pursuing passions is always going to lead to anxiety because you're pursuing something. And a lot of the time that passion has no security, so music, film, journalism, all that sort of stuff. Like if it's a passionate project, there's anxiety about it, about you making sure that it works out.
Yeah.
And whereas like if like my dad is an engineer, like he got a job when he was 16 as an engineer, and he's been an engineer forever.
Yeah, yeah,
He also does music. He's a drummer. He's been a drummer for the last 40 years, and he's talked about like getting into the he would love to have been a drummer when in an actual big band and whatever.
yeah.
And I think our generation just has a bit more courage to do that.
And I'd also say more avenues perhaps too. I mean,
Oh
self-releasing
yeah,
has
for
become a
sure.
lot more I mean, self-releasing was always a thing, but I think it's definitely a lot more plausible now for anyone to be
Oh
able
yeah.
to uh record and to
Hmm.
release, you know.
Yeah, sure. Fucking years ago, like everything was recorded on tape. If you didn't
Yeah.
have 10 grand, you're recording nothing, man.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
now we're recording at home, you
Yeah.
know? It's crazy how like as much as how like as the music industry is so saturated right now, but it's also the easiest it's ever been to get
Yeah.
into the music industry in a
Yeah.
way. You know what I mean? Like
I think
even
there's
though if you're
just
not
as you're
successful
mentioning,
about it,
sorry.
sorry,
No,
no.
as you're mentioning with that
Um,
saturation thing, it's kind of like, you know, it
yeah,
is difficult. even if you're somebody who's trying to keep on top of everything, to be on top of everything,
Hmm.
and I think it's like for a lot of people, it's just, as you were mentioning, like, you kind of released your first EP and then just kind of didn't do any promo or anything like that. But it's
Hmm.
like, again, that is something it's a perpetual machine that you have to keep fueling in order to be able
Yeah.
to even get to the point of having any kind of fan base, I don't
Hmm.
know, have you felt about that, like, just in terms of like, prior to this, I mean, obviously you're doing a lot of PR now. You're contacting people. You're trying to get featured. How have you found
Hmm.
that in terms of actually trying to expand your reach? In terms of, I assume contacting publications. I assume contacting promoters or other musicians and trying to
Hmm.
collaborate. How have you actually found that process as an independent musician?
Um, it's a good question. I mean, like I kind of have a 60-day promotion plan for a single, and it's something like I didn't stick to it with this song because I've had some issues with my TikTok and like connecting it to my music and stuff. Issues with some with my distributor with DistroKid. I've
Yeah.
left them now, because they're just a bit they're half-assing a lot of things.
Hmm.
They have so many artists that they can't actually do a very personalized service in a way.
Right.
So but I do have a 60-day plan that I do plan on really sticking to for when I start releasing singles from the album. Once everything is sorted with distribution and TikTok and stuff, um, where it's and a lot of it is visuals. We were talking about having so much video content as a musician now,
Hmm.
and it's very based around that. Like I have like I only came across your page after the release, but I have like a spreadsheet of I think I've over 100 emails now of just radios, magazines, everything,
Yeah.
acoustic sessions, promoters, everything. Um, and I did a press release like 2 weeks before the song released, and I mean I didn't hear anything, but I did like a follow up email then a week before, and then I did a follow up once it released. And it's been getting a couple of things happening with it, which is great. I got there's a few articles that were written. Well, I mean, it's the press release that I wrote, but they
Yeah.
put it
Yeah.
on their website, which is great. Um,
So
with
just to continue to what you're saying there, that's one advice I give to every independent artist is to do the follow-up emails, because sometimes things do just
mhm.
get missing in the inbox.
Oh yeah.
Sometimes you just contact them at a bad time, and they're
Hmm.
just like buried and stuff. And then maybe if they have a bit more freeway 2 weeks or 3 weeks later, they might consider you. That is something I
Yeah,
think is
for
very
sure.
important, is to keep up with it. And I think some people might be a bit averse to that because they might be thinking, oh, I'm bothering them.
Mm,
I'm just like constantly.
hmm.
But I think it's a good thing to kind of keep them in someone's mind. If nothing comes of it, nothing comes of it.
Yeah, for sure. Like my girlfriend's in PR. She
Hmm.
does public relations for this big conglomerate company in Dublin. But she knows how journalists think.
Hmm.
Um, so she helped me write this press release. The first version I did on my own was terrible, but she kind of came in and edited it, which I'm very lucky to have that. Um, but she was telling me that the day of the week matters, the time of the day really matters, and it's not like getting no reply is not something you should take personally. Like it's like 75% of the time they haven't even read it, they haven't come across it. They get hundreds of emails a day. Even her as an intern gets hundreds of emails. Can you imagine what big editors get?
Yeah.
So yeah, for sure. I think some people are afraid of being told no, or being ignored, but that's not the case. Like you just have to keep pushing at it and coming across new outlets such as yourself.
Hmm.
Like even though I didn't contact you 2 weeks before the release, I still was like, oh, this is cool. He does
Oh yeah,
interviews.
that's the
Awesome.
thing.
I'll just send
Don't
him.
be afraid of that too. Like even if something's released, like just make the contact anyway.
Yeah,
I'm
for
telling you,
sure.
because like sometimes like you just get buried with stuff anyway. That like even if you did contact someone like 2 weeks before your release, or however many weeks before your release, like
Mm,
still there's a chance that by the time they actually get it around, like like even me, like my website is relatively small, and like even I'm backlogged and stuff, like so I can only
yeah,
imagine what it's like if you're like with one of the bigger outlets like Hot Press or
yeah,
District or something like that, like how backlogged they
exactly.
must
Yeah.
be. So even then, like you might do an interview and it's like, okay, but it probably won't be out for like another month or two anyway. So
Mm,
don't be
yeah.
afraid, like even if it's released, like actually my issue sometimes is like when I'm like sometimes I'll do an interview with someone for the release of this single, and by the time I actually
Hmm.
get the thing out, their next single is out. I've had that happen a few
Yeah.
times. So it's just especially if like in my case, like it's basically one man army sort of thing.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so it's like, trying to do like all these interviews and stuff
Mm,
like on my own is kind of like difficult. So, there's all these different factors that kind of come into it. But, I
mm.
still say like, just keep never
Yeah,
worry
for
about
sure.
like
Like,
that. You know.
like I firmly can say that release day is the quietest day you'll ever have for your music.
Yeah.
Nobody's gonna care.
Yeah.
You gotta wait for it to build some momentum. And that's why I released this song on a Wednesday. Because what happens on Friday?
Everyone. Yeah.
Thousands, hundreds of thousands
Yes.
of new songs come out.
Yes.
You're just a little squeak in that
Yeah.
huge noise.
Yeah.
So if you release on a Wednesday, you have a couple of days to build a little bit of momentum so that you stand out. You make a little bit bigger of a squeak,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
So
I
that's
forget like
like
one
these
Friday,
little
like
things you got to do, you know?
yeah, like I
Go
think
ahead.
one Friday, it was either last Friday or the Friday before. I don't know, all the dates blur together for me, but
Yeah.
like four big albums came out like at the same time. I was like,
Mm,
I forget. I remember like and like from local artists, so they're competing. Like local artists are putting out their singles and their albums on that day, their EPs on that day,
yeah.
and it's like while also like big international artists are doing it too. It's
Hmm.
just like there's only so many hours in the day people have to commit.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair
That's
though, I
it.
mean like music is kind of like most albums are like around 40 minutes long, and and you can listen to it more passively, where like say
Hmm.
if you're a film critic, I mean like films now have gotten, I think, like so long. Like I think like movies now are kind of getting to like 2.5 hour mark as a standard almost.
Yeah.
Where it's funny to me because it seems kind of counterproductive. I'm just talking to you about this because I know you're into film, but like it
Hmm.
seems counterproductive because like conventional wisdom would teach us that people's attention spans are dying, and that
Hmm.
people want quick fixes. So conventional wisdom would say try and make the film as short as possible to kind of convince people, and also from the distributor's perspective, if you have an
Hmm.
80-minute film, you can get more screenings in the day than if you have a 2.5 hour film. So it just makes more logical sense. But I wonder if it's kind of
Yeah.
like if the attitude is just more, well, we have to justify people coming to the cinema and paying their ticket, paying like 15 quid for a ticket or whatever. Like let's make it as big an experience as it possibly can. I don't know,
Mm,
but you know, being a film critic now seems or just being into film in general, just being a cinephile, kind of seems like a bigger commitment than being into music, where you can listen to, you potentially could listen to four albums in a day. It's not, the
yeah.
biggest requirement, but it is kind of like if you actually want to engage with the music, if you actually want to be like, I want to engage with this as a piece of art, it is kind of like you have to listen to an album several times. You really have to kind of pay attention. And
Hmm.
that can be difficult too. And I think sometimes from the perspective of music journalism, I think sometimes that can lead to very surface level journalism to the point where,
Yeah.
I consider my research on artists a lot of times to be quite cursory. And even then I'm kind of amazed at the response that they're like, oh, you did your research when I listened to like an
Mm.
album from a couple of years ago. It's very
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
strange, but I understand, when people are in demand, they can, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting you bring up film, and I think you're right that that films are getting longer. Sure, there wasn't The Irishman by Martin Scorsese like three and a
Oh,
half hours. Like
Killers of
that's
the Flower
crazy.
Moon, that one.
No, The Irishman with
Oh,
Robert
The
Downey
Irishman, yeah,
Jr.
yeah.
Yeah.
But see, I would argue that's a bit different because that was like a Netflix release. So, it's like, oh, you can watch it at your own leisure. But Killers of the
Yeah,
Flower
yeah.
Moon, his most recent one, was in cinemas, and the
Hmm.
distributors, I forget who distributed it, but whoever the distributor of that film was, I think it was Apple. They were actually reprimanding cinemas that were putting what do you call it? Intermissions in the film. Like they were part of the contract
Hmm.
for distributing the
Yeah.
film was that you wouldn't add an intermission, but some cinemas were going rogue and putting intermissions. And when they
Mm.
found, I'm like, put intermissions in. People need to, piss. It's 3 hours long. People need
You
to,
know what?
go to the toilet.
I'm gonna disagree with you on that because
Okay,
into like same with an album. Like, are you gonna put just one track of silence in there?
yeah,
No.
yeah,
And that's sort of how like I've seen albums that are like hours long,
yeah,
but I wouldn't put an intermission on that. Maybe like some sort of intermission could be like a 2 minute sort of ambient track or whatever.
yeah.
But putting an intermission in a film, I think that breaks the emotion that the filmmakers are trying to portray. Um, yeah, like we take Justice League. That was it 4 hours long or
Yeah, yeah.
something. Fair enough having an intermission in that. Like that's a bit much. Plus, it's fucking like it's DC. Like, who's gonna actually sit through 4 hours of that? But no, I think for because I said I'm a director. I'm trying to evoke emotion, and I think even when I'm watching something like if I'm watching an episode of something, I'll finish that episode instead of pausing it
Yeah.
because I'm in the emotion of it, you
Hmm.
know, and I don't want to break off of that and then jump back into it and try to feel the exact same thing that I was feeling before. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
I actually
I don't
get this a
know.
lot
I
with
think it's definitely a good. Sorry, what?
No, no, I was just gonna say I actually get that experience a lot that you're talking about with video games where, at some point if a game is a bit long, I'll stop I'll like take a break and then it
Mhm.
is very impossible to go back to it. So I think you're right there.
Yeah, like I play a lot of games as well. Take Red Dead Redemption 2.
Hmm.
Huge game, super long game. But I would never play a game in between playing that.
Yes, yes,
I
I'm the
think I've
same.
dropped about 200 hours in my latest playthrough of it.
I'm
Like
like
I
that
only,
with books as well. I can't read two books at once. It's
yeah,
insane to me.
yeah. Same with yeah, same with any game. Like I'm actually playing Life is Strange. Do you ever hear that?
Yeah, yeah, I played it. Yeah, I played the
Yeah, that
first
that
one,
song
I
actually
think.
changed my music career.
Yeah.
It changed my music taste. Because back then I was listening to fucking Kesha, Bruno Mars, all that sort of shit, man. And then I heard the music in
Yeah.
that, and I was
Would you
like, oh
like
my
to work
god.
with Dr. Luke someday? No, I'm joking. No, you don't answer that.
Yeah, probably not. Um, but yeah, so that game changed my life. But I would always finish an episode of it. I'd
Yeah,
never stop
yeah,
in the middle of an episode unless I had to do something like really
right.
proper. But like I'd stay up late just to finish up an episode, because that's also like a film, where you gotta stick with the emotion that they're kind of portraying in
Yeah.
that episode. So I'm
It's like
very
you
much of,
wouldn't,
of that.
when you're reading a book, you want to finish a chapter before you put the bookmark in.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. Like because like let's say you're nearing the end of a chapter and you stop reading, like you're
Yeah,
basically stopping the climax of that chapter
right.
before it ends, and then you got to jump back into it and feel the suspense that it's trying to do
Yeah.
again. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's definitely a good discussion, especially with different mediums. Um, so, but with film, I'm a filmmaker by trade, so I'm very much pushing for that. Just watch the whole fucking thing. Just do it. Sit through it and then go pee afterwards.
Or just, have little bathrooms in the toilet. No, that's that. In the cinema. Um,
Oh, I don't know about
You've been very
that.
gracious, Tom. I'll just have a few more questions just to kind of
Oh, yeah,
link
sure.
some things together. So the first thing you were mentioning, kind of once you've gotten your guitar, you started the band with your friend and Liam. You
Mhm.
mentioned then you went to Dublin, and this is where the ARREN project as it exists now began. But I was wondering if we could maybe just talk a little bit more about that origin. So,
Yeah.
I assume was the band continuing until you moved to Dublin, and then when you moved to Dublin, what was the impetus for starting this project? And so you mentioned that the EP was recorded in 2019. Was that the year you moved to Dublin? And just those kind of general missing dots, I guess.
Um, I think it was the year before I moved to Dublin. So I'm here 6 years. Yeah. Um, yeah, so
Sorry, did
when
you
I first
go to
moved up,
IDT in 2018, did you?
I think so.
Oh, we would have started the
Yeah, I
same
think it
year then. I
was.
started in
Oh,
2018 as well.
really?
Yeah, yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
cool.
Yeah,
Cool.
cool. You would have been in the film
Um,
building. I was mainly in the atrium and the Carrick so
oh yeah, yeah,
probably
yeah.
didn't see each other. Yeah,
Nice. That's cool. Maybe I might have passed you in the hall. You never know.
probably did. Yeah, yeah. Getting chips.
Um, getting chips, yeah.
Well, I used to use the film building. I only used to use that really for the recording studio in there.
Oh yeah,
So I
yeah, yeah.
used that a few
Cool.
times when I was for like documentary voiceover or
Mm,
bunch of shit. That was a good place actually.
nice.
Yeah.
Cool.
Sorry. So you would went about probably about 2018 then, yeah. Just get
Yeah,
the
yeah. So
chronology
2018.
correct.
Yeah. But I was still like it was actually I before I moved to Dublin, I moved in the summer. I think it was like early July when I moved up. I
Mhm.
think it was that May. The girl I was kind of fooling around with at the time, she moved back to America. I'm very much in with the girls who are not from Ireland and end up fucking off.
We
So
all have a type.
yeah. um, so she went back to America and I then moved up and I started writing songs about her.
Mhm.
Um, so I wrote, I think it was it was the first song on the EP was the first song I wrote when I moved up. Um, and yeah, I just wrote that EP. It was originally going to be an Elenay thing, because I figured that we'd still try and do stuff together. Um, but yeah, but no, eventually it was kind of like, we're so far apart that it's kind of pointless. Um, so I just was like, all right, I'll do this myself, and just go from there. I mean, it was funny actually. I didn't go by Aaron until a couple months ago. I went by
Okay.
just my normal name, Aaron Maloney. Like the EP was released um under Aaron Maloney. It was actually originally got Aaron Maloney on the name right there.
Oh,
I have the
cool.
CDs printed, but I changed the artwork then when I released them
Okay.
to have Aaron.
You rewrote
Um,
history. Okay.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But so yeah, I wrote those, and I was pretty happy with those. And I kind of came to the conclusion that it would just be my thing. So um, I wasn't really big into the whole music scene in Dublin. I mean, I just kind of moved up, and but I didn't really try to get into it in any way.
Mhm.
Um, and I just kind of did my thing with college, and then I recorded the EP, and so the rest. Like I did all my college, and I didn't do anything. I only really started getting into the music scene the start of this year, to be honest.
Were you living out
Um,
near Dunleary or were you closer
I'm
to the
living
city centre?
in well, at the time in college, I was living in Still Oregon,
Okay, right. So
but
that's a
now I
bit
live in
far,
Dundrum.
yeah,
Yeah, I live in Dundrum now, which is it's fine. It's like half an hour on the Lewis, so it's grand. But
They'd have to get like the 46 in, I guess, to go to the city centre. So it is a bit kind of divorced just geographically from where music was happening. I'm trying to think of actual venues around there. The only one I could think of is the Lighthouse in Dunleary proper. It's the only venue I could
yeah,
think of that really does music
mm,
around Dublin
I
18.
didn't. I never played in there actually. I don't
Yeah.
think I've even been there.
It's an okay place. It's
But
just a pub. Oh no, the
yeah.
actual pub is nice, but in terms of like the actual gig, I went to one there and it's just like just a corner in the room
Mm,
basically.
oh, okay,
Yeah.
fair enough. It's one of those.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
But in terms of like music venues, there is really nothing. I guess maybe the Pavilion sometimes has acoustic gigs out in Leary, but that's kind of it, I guess.
mm, yeah, like I really, as I said, didn't get into the whole music scene at all in college.
Yeah.
And it's only, I mean, I've only started this year really that I started because I was doing more film stuff. I was writing more films, and then I just got think because I was working a kind of shitty job. It was like writing at the time, and I was working, and I was getting into the job to save money, but I did a year of it, and I really didn't save a lot of money.
Okay.
And I was like, what the hell am I doing? And then I was like, I wrote that fucking album there about 4 years ago. What the hell? I should do something with that.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm getting back into music. Fuck it. And I came across this sort of jam session the start of this year, and I went and met up a whole bunch of people. Met Fernando, who helped with the album. I met the guy from Netherlands, Tom. He was over on holiday. The first day he said a busking with one of the guys there, and I saw that they were busking. I was like, "You know, busking? Why not? I haven't busked in years." And yeah, just hit it off from there. Um, and yeah, we just started making a lot of contacts, started doing a lot more open mics, just doing what I can. I would like just yeah, like just meeting people, meeting as much people as I can, and collaborating with loads of people. Like I was there in Chennai. Do you know
Yeah.
Chennai? Yeah, I
Yeah.
was there last night. I was doing an acoustic session there. It's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, really cool. I actually think I have a gig coming up there next month,
Do you want to plug it?
which I don't have any details for right
Okay.
now. So,
If you do get
but
them, to email them on. I'll include it in the
oh
article
yeah,
that
for
when it goes
sure,
up.
for
Yeah.
sure.
But
But yeah, so I've just been doing as much as I can, and then eventually got a tax return, a nice tax return, paid for the album.
cool. Cool.
Well, I got like
So when was this album
half
actually
the
recorded then?
amount. Sorry?
When was this album actually recorded? Just so I have
Oh,
a...
I took all the whole month of May. So I booked
Okay,
off the
cool.
whole
Yeah.
month from work and did it all over May.
Did you find
It
that
was
was enough
really cool.
time,
Hmm?
or was that a significant amount of time, or sorry, not significant, a sufficient amount of time to actually get everything you wanted on it, or do you wish you had more, or was it too much actually? Do you think you could have done it less?
Um, no, I think it was actually a perfect amount. There was a week, I think it was like the middle of May when my producer was going touring with his band.
Mhm.
So really, I got an extra week in June. It was still like 4.5 weeks of recording. But I think it was a good amount of time. Um, I really felt like a professional full-time musician during it.
Yeah,
It was like fucking 9 to 5 recording Monday to Friday, just on the grind, but it's music. And
yeah,
it was just awesome. I documented the whole thing. I'll be releasing like vlog videos of it as the album's coming out and stuff like that.
yeah,
But yeah, I should tell you a bit about that studio actually.
yeah.
It's in Port It's called Red Lake Sound Studios. Beautiful place. Like he's got it's like out the back of Gary's house. But it's real nice. And he's got like huge land. He's got like horses, he's got like a lake down the end, which is called the Red Lake.
Yeah.
He's also got this cabin, like a little mobile home that people rent out as an Airbnb, and we rented it out for a few days. Um, so it was just music, sleep, music, sleep, music, sleep. It was awesome. But he's got like 50 animals or so. He's got like chicken, geese, horses. He's got a miniature horse. He's got like a whole. His wife has like a whole terrarium inside with spiders and lizards and snakes. Um, he's also got an emu. You know what an emu is?
Yeah, yeah, of course, yeah.
One of those Australian fucking
Yeah.
things. His name, the emu is called Dave Fanning
Oh well.
because apparently he looks like Dave Fanning. Um, but yeah, it was awesome. Like, really
If
cool
Dave
place.
Fanning
Like,
listens to this and then gives out to me for that, I'll know I made
yeah,
it. I'll be like,
really,
yes.
like, really, really. I'll get a text now from Gary. It's like, why the fuck did you call?
You're
Did you
never getting
mention
on
Dave
Dave
Fanning?
Fanning's show, or
Yeah, yeah,
Fanning
yeah.
at Whelan's, which he does now. That'd be a
Oh,
sick show.
really?
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it was a really cool place. Um, he has a piano there, acoustic piano that's like 105 years old or something like that. It's
That's older than
really
me.
nice. Just a little bit, yeah. But yeah, really love the place. Definitely worth all the money I spent
You
doing
ever
that,
were you afraid like if you press a key on it, it would just like into dust?
No, well, I was careful with it, but he was like, don't be a pussy playing it, Aaron.
That seems like something that like when something's like kind of that old, it would have a very weird and specific requirements. Like, yeah, you can play it, but just don't play F sharp or something, or just
Yeah,
something
yeah,
weird
yeah.
like that.
No, he's taking really good
Uh,
care of it now.
don't
He's
go higher than F.
yeah, yeah. But no, he's taking a lot of good care now of that piano. He got a tuner, like a tuner guy. He has to hire a
Mhm.
guy to come tune it. We did that while we were recording something else, and because the guy needs like 3 hours to tune the whole thing.
Jeez.
Um, but yeah, it's really cool, really cool. Lovely space, really professional looking. RGB everywhere. Um, but yeah, so we did the whole month recording with that week in between, and then the last week was just all vocals.
Yeah.
Very tough week. um, I think one of the days, like the last song on the album, it's very shouty,
Mhm.
so it's very like la 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 la. Um, and I didn't know I could do that until I got in to actually do it. Because I wanted to do it, but I could never actually do it. And when I
Well, it's
got
also
in, I was
something
like,
that you're quite
no, I can't do it. Hmm?
you get quite self-conscious doing that. It's hard to explain, but like, you can get kind of used to singing and being performed as a singer, but there is something about shouting where it kind of does take another mental
Mm.
faculty where you're kind of like, oh no, but you feel kind of embarrassed or something. It's like, the initial
Yeah.
trepidation of singing wears off, but when you add shouting into the equation,
Mm.
suddenly you become a bit self-conscious. But
I
I don't know
think
if you found
that
that.
might stem from our voices breaking. We don't want to shout and it actually be a voice break.
It's an
That
evolutionary thing.
that's too. Yeah, it's instinctual. But like what I did was shout, but you're not actually supposed to shout. I'm currently learning how to do it safely and properly, but
Right,
you
right.
don't actually like it's not the way you instinctively use your throat to shout.
Yeah,
You don't do that at all.
yeah.
It's very much like a low roar thing that happens in your chest. Still haven't figured out how to do it, but on the album anyway, I do a cool
Yeah.
shout.
Yeah.
I couldn't speak for the rest of the day, but it was worth it.
Well, people who actually go into kind of like screamo metal bands, like or screamo or metal bands, they actually do have to kind of practice that, and it is like a
Yeah.
technique because you watch it and it seems
Hmm.
so like instinctive and animalistic, but it's like no,
Yeah.
that's actually a very tuned, very like professional thing.
Mm,
Because if not, that
yeah.
guy would be dead.
Yeah, for sure. I know a guy who kind of turned emo and started
Yeah,
doing screamo, and like I kind of like watched him do the process of learning it.
yeah.
So I know
I'm
how it
sure taking
works. I mean,
notes.
I'd love to be able to do it just
Yeah,
as another tool in the toolbox, the
yeah,
vocal toolbox. But it's cool. Yeah, it's very interesting vocals and vocal cords. What we can actually do with our voices, um, if we learn how to do them properly. We don't want to lose our vocal cords. I saw a guy. I was at a gig recently, and I saw a guy. Really cool music, but God, my throat hurt looking at him. Like
yeah,
you
yeah.
could just see the strain, the fucking
Veins
tendons in his
popping out and
neck, man.
shit. Yeah.
And like afterwards, like this song would be like, blah, 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 blah. And then afterwards he'd be like,
Thank you.
thank you, thank you.
Yeah,
Like you
yeah.
could, he was fucked, man. He was fucked.
The other thing, sometimes when I see bands like that, I'm always like, how do you, like, beyond just like doing the vocal performance, how do you maintain the kind of the angst, the rage? You know what I mean? Like, it seems
Yeah.
like because it's not something you can really fake. Imagine, like, it's like sometimes you're just like, even as a music listener, you're just not in the mood for anything aggressive
Mm,
some days. But
hmm.
imagine like being like, well, we're on tour, we're doing like 12 straight days in a row. I have to be pissed
Yeah.
off every day. Just like watch
Yeah.
like political
Like
injustice videos.
there's no way that guy could survive like
No,
more than 3 nights of
no.
just what he's doing. Like
Just
there's
drink a
no
lot
way
of
he could do
hot
that.
lemon drinks.
Yeah, but that's like a lot of people who do world tours have been actually trained in how to do that properly so that they can still. do it, you know. I know Dan Reynolds of Imagine Dragons, he does the train stuff, but then he also doesn't. And I remember one time that there was like a post about him actually completely losing his voice on
Yeah,
stage, and
yeah.
it was cool, but because the audience like sang the rest of the gig with for him, you know. But it was, but it's yeah, you just got to be careful with it, you know. Like you
And
don't want
also
to
that
fuck it
fucks
up,
up your
and
tour then, like, yeah. Even something like
yeah, I
getting the
mean,
flu can really fuck up your tour. It's insane.
mm,
Like just
yeah,
from a vocal point, even if you have the kind of even if you're strong enough to actually get on stage and do, an hour and a half performance, just even like just having the vocal thing can really affect you. It's like, can really like
mm,
ruin a tour. I've heard like bands having to it sounds funny, but like bands canceling a tour because of the flu.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
That happens,
Like, yeah, I mean, and even I was kind of shitting it about like booking all of May to
Yeah.
record. I was like, better not fucking get sick now during May.
Yeah, especially with, like COVID
I'll
and
be
stuff.
so
It's like
sucked.
then like COVID kind of came back with a vengeance for a little bit, and it's like, oh my God, imagine
Yeah,
catching that while you have all this like,
I know, right?
that was
Yeah,
shit.
it's interesting.
All right, man, you've been very, very
Yeah,
gracious with your time. I don't want to take up too much more. I just have one final question for you, and
sure.
I'll let you get on with your day. My question was, you were mentioning, the kind of I guess it'd be 5 year gap now between the first EP and the single that's currently out.
Hmm.
Between that and this album, how has your music taste changed as a listener? How, as a kind of diversified, what are you listening to now that you didn't then? And how have those new influences affected the music on the album compared to,
Mm.
what compared to the EP compared to the single?
Yeah, that's a good question, man. So I would say that for this album, I've kind of gone back to my roots,
Hmm.
which is the stuff I used to listen to when I was younger, and the stuff that it's subconsciously influenced my writing, like since I started writing. You know, this sort of style of writing and sound has influenced how I write, and that's what kind of what I was saying about thinking about electronic music. I have no idea how to even begin to write something like that because that's not something that I've listened to, or you know, growing up, I never really listened to that sort of stuff. You know.
So sorry, when you're thinking of incorporating electronica, is that just because you feel that's something you should do or that's something you want to do? Because I think sometimes like, um the incorporation of those kind of instrumentations like should be kind of something that you think it benefits the song rather than I
Hmm.
need to kind of expand and grow just for the sake of expansion and growth, you know?
Yeah, no, that's a good question, man. I think it's a mix of both. You know, like with the EP, I never really pictured somebody playing it in their car while on a trip or something like that. And I wanted to make something that people could do that for. And I considered electronic stuff because I do listen to some kind of electronic pop, not a lot, like nothing crazy, but like some solo artists that I listen to. There's a guy called Scott Hellman. He's a Canadian. But his stuff is really cool. I like all of his stuff, but he does a lot of like sort of electronic percussion stuff in his work, and it's something I consider doing. Um, but yeah, no, I just kind of fell back into that sort of folky 90s 2000s sort of pop rock stuff, which is what I grew up on, you know. So um, yeah, it's funny. Like I I was talking about Life is Strange, and I'm sure you're familiar with the music that's in it. It's a very folky and very soft, and I loved that sort of stuff when I was younger. Um, and as the years went on, I kind of went into more, like moved away from that sort of thing into more rocky stuff, more electronic stuff. But now I'm kind of falling back into that. You
Yeah.
know, it's kind of done. It's kind of gone full circle. You
Yeah.
know,
It's like rediscovering
and
old loves. I'm kind of like that sometimes
yeah.
with kind of going back to your root, like even as a
Hmm.
listener, just kind of going back to the stuff you used to like, and it's so great when it still resonates, you know what I mean? Like sometimes
Hmm.
actually it's the same man you are like you'll watch a film you used to love or you'll play a video
Hmm.
game you used to love and stuff like that. And it's kind of like
Yeah.
sometimes it resonates with you and sometimes it doesn't. And but
Hmm.
it's so like satisfying when it does, when you go back and
Yeah.
you're like,
Yeah.
shit, this still hits.
And like, like with the album, there's this band that I listened to. I think they released they're broken up now, but I think they released their last album in like 2017 or something like that. And I was there when they released it, and I listened to it, and it was so good. I loved it. But it's Americana, um, sort of bluesy rock, um, and I listened to the album there last week. Like I listened to it back then, and then it was a few years where I didn't listen to it, but now I'm getting back into it.
Yeah.
You know, and
And then also like have you ever had that moment where you're like listening to something old and you're like, shit, I remember all these lyrics, I remember all the chord changes,
mhm.
like that stuff like
Yeah,
so nice.
yeah, and it just makes you happy, and that's what
Yeah.
I wanted to do with the music. Like I was thinking about all this electronic stuff, but really, what makes me happy is doing what I love listening to growing up. Like, and I think it's more fulfilling as an artist and as a listener. I love listening to my own music, man. I've listened to my album fucking 20 times.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
awesome. I love listening to it, and
Yeah.
you should do that with your music. You should, like, if, even if I'm the only person who listens to it, you know,
You're happy
I'm
listening to
still
it,
gonna be
yeah.
really proud of it and really love the songs and so I think it's not egotistical or vain to do that with your own music. Like,
No, not at all. No,
yeah,
why create art that you yourself wouldn't enjoy?
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
No, I don't think there's anything egotistical about that. I think people should be content with what they make, you know? I don't think there's anything wrong
Mm.
with that.
But
One
if you ever get caught, like, listening to your own music, it's a bit funny. And
if
I'm
like
like,
your
I
earpods
gotta learn my
disconnect or
lyrics,
something
man. I
and it's
gotta
just
learn my
like blaring
lyrics.
your own voice.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's
I
like
guess
I can
actually
actually sing as well as this singer. Haha.
one final thing I'll ask actually, just because just and you can talk about this as much you want. Like if it's a subject that's not comfortable
It's no
for you,
rush,
that's
man.
fine.
I'm in no hurry, so
No, no. If
no
this is a
bother.
subject you're not comfortable with, it's fine. But I wanted to just kind of ask actually about you were talking about like kind of mental health struggles and how
Mm,
kind of music has helped you. But I was wondering, um, not only for yourself but just for artists in general who have mental health struggles. And I think like the statistic is something like 90% of creatives have some kind of mental health
mm,
struggles. I was wondering from your perspective as much as kind of music helps in the aid of things like anxiety, in the aid of things like depression or despondency, um, do you find being a musician at any time adds to that? Because we're talking about financial burden, for example, but obviously being in music adds additional financial burden, which can
mm,
affect your mental health. But also, I think there's the social aspect too, where sometimes people can put a lot of their own self-worth on how they're doing on social media. How many likes has my post got? How
mm-hmm,
many followers do I have? Things like that. I think those issues amplify when you're a musician, where it's like,
mm,
how many plays has my song got? How many people are following it? How many, you know what I mean? I was wondering,
yeah.
do you find at any time there's any detriment to your mental health from being a musician, or are those things kind of superfluous to what you're doing? The amount of followers you're getting, the amount of listeners, as long as the art is good, that's all that kind of takes precedent.
Hmm. Well,
Sorry, that's a lofty question.
no, no, no. It's a great question, man. It's a great question. I think, like, as I said before, music is a business, and I think why a lot of people give up music is because of that business.
Right.
They just like, I just want to play music, but no, it's a business, man. There's plans you got to do. There's everything, and I kind of separate the business side of music to the creative side in a way. So
Mhm.
if I'm writing something, I'm not thinking about how I could push this 6 months down the line. I'm writing something and I'm like, I'll write it and see where the song goes, what it turns into. And if it's something I can push as a single, great. If not, it'll be an album song or whatever, you know.
Right.
But I think, and it's a good man. It's a great question because, like, you, yes, there's so much financial issues with musicians, you know, and it sucks. But for me, not being a musician is more of a detriment to my mental health than being one. Even though it's funny, my girlfriend says it all the time. I've chosen the two worst industries to get into, film and music. You know, I have zero job security, bro.
Totally. Totally.
But
And even then,
it's
like
what I
as you were
love
mentioning,
doing, and
people
that's what
expect
matters.
voluntary work too. So like, you get into like film
Yeah,
and you get thinking people are like, can you do it for credit?
yeah. Let me just pay my rent with exposure and
Yeah.
experience.
I'm
You
gonna
know.
get so much like work from this like, student film that's gonna be seen by like 12 people on YouTube.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Hey man, I've done it too. I can't complain.
Yeah, for sure. But no, man, I think nah, like and maybe it's different with other people, and maybe that's why they give up music. But I do not want to have a life where I'm not doing something I'm passionate about. Like I wouldn't like. First of all, I wouldn't be alive if it wasn't for music, and I need to do music as a physical thing. You
Right.
know, um, I've kind of found that music is above film. Film is awesome, and I, I, I do want to do that as my career, if not music as a career, you know. Um, but I would love to be a musician more than a filmmaker. Um, but yeah, no. To answer your question, I think personally, being a musician and the sheer joy I get from it outweighs the anxiety of success of it. You know.
Totally.
Um, yeah. No, I think it's a good question, man. It's a good question. But yeah,
Yeah, sorry,
that's
just
what I
hit
think.
you with that and they go, okay, bye.
Yeah. All right, cool. Adios.
Um, yeah, man, thanks very much for your time. I've really appreciated talking with you. I guess the final
Yeah,
thing
it's
I
been
wanted to
fun.
ask, the final thing, this is the actual final thing. First of all, kind of generally, what you kind of expecting in terms of like album release, in terms of like a time slot, and is there anything you would like to add or plug or just
Mm.
add before we wrap up?
Well, I mentioned the music video. Planning on putting that out on 31st of July.
I'll
Um,
try and get the
so,
article out to coincide with that then.
oh yeah, perfect. Yeah.
I'll just write that down. So July 31st.
July 31st, 2 weeks from now exactly.
Perfect.
But so what I've struggled with doing for this song, with because of my distribution issues and TikTok issues, I have a 60-day plan for each single that I'm going to release. I'm planning on releasing probably about 6 singles from the album, just because albums are for fans, singles are for making fans.
Right.
Um, so it's a bit of a waste of songs to just release the album, you know. Same with the EP. I didn't release any singles from that. Maybe I could have gotten a bit more if I released one of the songs and maybe pushed it a little, you know. Um, but yeah, so I have a 60-day plan for each single, and each single will have a lyric video or a visualizer, a music video, and an acoustic version. There'll be an acoustic version of the single coming on the 14th of August.
Perfect.
Um,
I'll mention that
so
before
yeah,
we wrap up.
and just pushing the song as much as I can, you know, and giving different versions of it as well. And I'll be doing that with all the songs that I release as singles, because
What do you think
and
about
one
this
yeah
one?
one thing I've kind of found, not personally obviously, but with other musicians, is that um as if you release a song, it's after a month when things really start to pick up for it.
Right.
So releasing songs more than once a month is completely pointless. because you can't actually pitch a song to Spotify. You can't pitch one more than one song per month to Spotify. So for playlists, so it's kind of pointless. So every two
And
months
also it
seems to
kind
be
of
a good idea, you
weights
know?
everything down a bit because like if you have a new
Yeah,
single, it doesn't give each song a chance to breathe.
yeah, exactly. And like I've often seen a musician that's released a song and then release another song, and then actually because they released it so soon, this the previous song actually starts to get a bit more traction, and they stop promoting that second song and they start promoting the first song again.
Right.
You know,
Right.
so giving breathing room to each songs is very important. Um, so that's where that 60-day plan for me comes in. Um, so every 2 weeks having something major happening in between all these dumbass TikTok fucking things, you know. But yeah, that's the plan. And then I'll be doing acoustic sessions, um, probably the odd gig or so. I'm not really keen on doing like a headlining gig anytime soon, just because I've been in the audience of a gig where it's a headline gig and 7 people show up. You know,
Man,
that's
I've been
just
to
sad,
so
man.
many damn, and it's always like, oh my, and even like the music is great, and like, why the fuck is like
Yeah,
another no? But it's difficult
yeah,
to
yeah,
just wrangle people, as you mentioned, like whether it's in Dublin,
yeah,
whether
yeah.
it's in Limerick, like it's just like convincing people to come out. People are so flaky too. It's like,
I know,
just
yeah.
trying to like meet people, and also it's like I've been in weird scenarios where I like an artist and I'll go to their gig, and like I'm the only one there that they don't know. And like
Mm,
everyone else, like it's weird because I'm like just observing them
yeah.
and like they're like saying, "Oh hi" to everyone except like you, and like I
Mm,
don't mind that. Like I'm not like hey, but it's just like I feel like I'm crashing a party like a private event or something,
yeah, yeah,
even though it's a public event. They sell tickets
yeah,
on Eventbrite. I feel like I'm like wedding crashing or something.
yeah,
But
yeah,
no,
yeah.
dude, that's like I think that's like a really huge problem too. It's just like convincing people. I think like the best
Mm,
means of doing that I've seen, and even then it's not great, is trying to get a lineup of like 3 to 5 different artists who will bring
mm,
their friends and their, fans if they have any
yeah.
along. But even then, man, I've been to like a couple of those shows, like really great promoters putting on like really great, interesting shows at very affordable prices. Like, dude, I'm talking
Mm,
like I said, 3 to 5 bands for like under a tenner, like
mm,
5 to 8 quid roughly, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And like I don't even know how it's like possible to make any kind of like they're not making any profit off it.
No,
And
they're not.
well, it's just like fuck, man. And even then, people don't turn out. People are so people are such ingrates, man. It's like
Yeah,
how
man.
cheap you want them to
Seriously.
get, and then they'll complain when like
Yeah.
like a head, and I think they have the right to complain when like a headline act at like the arena or something will charge 150 for a ticket. Like yeah,
Mm,
go see a local show.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah,
And like, yeah, you got to take into account people who actually are just busy on those nights as well. Like,
that's
I
true.
really wanted to get to Mr. Billy Fitzgerald's gig there last week, but I was
It was really
just
good.
working the
That's really
whole
good.
time, you know?
Yeah, no, that happens too.
So
Also,
I couldn't
sometimes I
make it,
just
you know?
lose track of what's on too. That's another thing that happens to
Yeah.
me a lot. Is that again, sometimes it can get a little oversaturated, as you mentioned, where also, what's happened sometimes. I remember like one time I wanted to go to a few events and they're all on the same day. So it was like one show at the Button Factory, one show at the Sound House, one
Mm,
show at Grand Social. It's like, oh my God, man. Like,
yeah.
just
So much shit going
spread
on.
this out, spread this out.
Yeah,
Where it's
yeah.
like a
No,
lot of
you're damn
overlapping
right, man.
audiences. Like I know someone who works like works with kind of different promoters and stuff like that, and like even they're kind of spread out as working. It's like, well, I had to come to this rather
Mm,
than this. It's like, there's too much stuff on, man.
yeah.
And again,
That's
like
it, man. That's it.
now I'm complaining that there's too much shit.
Yeah,
What
I
a
know,
great
I
thing to
know.
complain about. We should go back
But yeah,
to
so
one
I don't
venue.
want to do a gig until I actually have until I have an actual fan base that are actually
They're gonna turn out, yeah.
asking for a gig. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
And then
So
like in a
I
couple
think
of
it's a
years,
bit of a
hopefully
waste
you
of
get
money
to
otherwise.
rip them off.
Yeah.
Yeah, charge 120 a ticket or something like that.
Do a Taylor Swift on it, you know?
Dude, I saw some people were paying upwards of no, not 7 grand, Jesus, 700 for a ticket. I was like, oh my God.
That's a joke, man. That's
seven
a
grand be
joke.
too much.
It's like, come on.
Like, yeah,
You'd
that's like
want
a
to be
month's
fucking
rent.
sleeping with him at that point,
Yeah. Yeah, I
man.
wonder that'd be funny, like the first artist to offer that. The prostitution bonus
Yeah.
as a thing. Yeah. Maybe no.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know,
that,
what
that's
you
it,
do
man.
is your
That's
own
it.
business.
For sure.
All right. Thanks very much for your time, man, and it's been really nice talking with you.
Yeah. I've been really, really happy to be on. It's been a lot of fun and great
Thanks,
to
Aaron.
meet you as well, man.
Yeah, it's very nice to meet you too. Hopefully, we'll see each other at a gig or something sometime, and
Yeah,
I'll buy you a
definitely.
glass of water.
I would appreciate that. Yeah, thanks.
Nice. Take care of yourself, man, and enjoy the
All
rest
right,
of your
man.
day.
Have a good day.
Best luck to
See
you,
ya.
man. Bye. Thank you for listening to that episode of Post-Burnout.com interviews. We're an independent venture run by yours truly, and as I said at the beginning, liking, rating, subscribing, and sharing really helps us out a lot. If you're feeling extra generous, we do have a PayPal donation link in the episode description, but don't feel obligated, of course. We've also begun releasing occasional exclusive episodes on Spotify, so subscribe there if you'd be interested in hearing those. Thanks again for listening, and see you next time.